welcome back to the Podcast Playground. Our newest podcast is The Best Podcast.
Join Jay Carter and me, Vida Best, on The Best Podcast, where the dynamic duo brings you their insider secrets to everything wonderful. Now Jay and me dive deep into the top 5 everything, from the latest cell phones to affordable wines that won't break the bank.
So tell a friend, you've found the best podcast,
where every recommendation is a gem waiting to be uncovered. Tune in weekly for your dose of excellence.
You know, there is this very specific, deeply ingrained sensory experience that comes with opening a brand new board game.
Oh, absolutely.
Right. It's that moment you finally slice the shrink wrap, you lift the lid, and
you get hit with that smell.
Yes. That smell of fresh printer ink and like thick cardboard. You see those pristine sheets of unpunched tokens just waiting for you.
Pressing those little cardboard coins out of the frame is, honestly, it's incredibly satisfying.
It really is.
It's this tactile ritual. You push your thumb against the cardboard and you get that perfect little pop.
You get the pop with every single piece. And I mean, for a moment, everything just feels organized. Everything feels completely contained.
Yeah, you have the rules of the universe right there in a neat little 20-page booklet.
Exactly. And for the next 2 hours, the world makes complete sense.
It's a beautifully structured microcosm. I think the human brain really craves that kind of enclosed order, particularly when the real world feels overwhelmingly chaotic.
For sure.
You sit down, the boundaries are drawn, the objectives are clear, and you just have total agency over your immediate environment.
But then, you know, you step into the actual board game market of 2026, and suddenly that sense of comforting order completely vanishes.
It's just chaos.
It is. We're looking at a landscape that is, frankly, intimidating. I mean, there are thousands of new releases dropping every single month.
Yeah, and you have these hybrid digital components now.
Right. AI integrations creeping into the physical space. If you're a listener just trying to figure out what to play this weekend, it is incredibly hard to navigate. So for today's deep dive, we are cutting right through all that noise.
That's right.
Our mission today is to chart the definitive top 5 best board games for 2026.
And we're doing this by pulling from a massive, highly contrasting stack of data. We aren't just looking at what critics like or what Walmart is selling.
Which would be the easy way out.
Exactly. We are cross-referencing everything. We've got hardcore, hobbyist blogs, algorithmic retail trends, and elite community rankings to find the games that are actually defining the year.
We really went everywhere for this. We have a blog called The Tabletop Family, where this guy Adam plays so much he actually stacked 38 games for his 38th birthday list.
That's dedication.
It is. We also have bestproductsreviews.com analyzing thousands of mainstream consumer trends and this massive community strategy ranking. So we're going to start at the absolute peak of the hobbyist mountain.
The really heavy stuff.
The new heavyweight obsession. When you look at the premier global database and forum for the hobbyist site called Board Game Geek, which is, you know, essentially the IMDb of tabletop gaming.
Right.
There is one game casting a massive shadow over everything else. It is sitting firmly at the #1 spot on their hottest list for April 2026. It's called Brass.
Pittsburgh.
Brass.
Pittsburgh is really dominating the conversation in a category we call heavy strategy.
Heavy being the operative word.
Oh, yeah. This is sitting on the shelf next to massive, sprawling games like Nucleum or the newly inducted Hall of Famer Terraforming Mars.
Which is a classic.
It is.
Oh.
And the elite community rankings are praising Brass heavily for its gripping card system and deeply gratifying narrative arc. But, I mean, we should warn you, it is not for the faint of heart.
No, definitely not. I look at these heavy strategy games, and I have to use an analogy here. Playing one of these feels like running a small municipal government in your spare time.
That is painfully accurate.
You know, you are managing resources, planning complex infrastructure, anticipating market fluctuations.
Right, trying to figure out zoning laws.
Exactly. Plotting out turns an hour in advance. It is spreadsheet-level mental gymnastics. So I have to push back a little on this trend.
Okay, go ahead.
If you are someone who works a stressful 40-hour week, why on earth are you seeking out such an intense, exhausting mental workout during your precious downtime?
That is the core paradox of the modern hobbyist, right? Why do work when you're supposed to be playing?
It seems backwards.
It does, but the answer lies in this concept of high-value cognitive engagement. Look at our daily lives in 2026. We are constantly bombarded with fast-paced, passive information.
Oh, totally.
Short-form videos, endless feeds, fractured attention spans.
Just a constant numbing stream of highly processed digital snacks.
Right, digital junk food. And a heavy strategy game like Brass. Pittsburgh offers the exact opposite diet.
Interesting.
It demands your absolute undivided focus for a sustained period. I mean, sometimes 3 or 4 hours.
Yeah.
When you engage with that gripping card system, you aren't just passing time, you are building something complex. You're experiencing a deep, gratifying arc of progression that you completely control.
You're saying the exhaustion's actually the point.
It is. It's the same exhaustion you feel after a great physical workout, but for your brain. Players are genuinely hungry for that focused, rewarding cognitive challenge because, well, prolonged focus is becoming incredibly rare in our digital lives.
That makes a lot of sense, actually.
Yeah, learning the rules of Brass is less like doing taxes and more like mastering a complex instrument.
Well, I like that.
When it finally clicks, the dopamine hit of executing a perfect 10-step master plan is just unparalleled.
So it's like the ultimate antidote to doom scrolling.
Yeah.
Love that perspective. But let's be real with our listeners here for a second.
Sure.
Not everyone has the time or the patience or, frankly, the mental bandwidth to run a simulated steel industry after a long day of actual work.
Fair enough.
How do we step down slightly? What if you want that deep, juicy, strategic feeling, but you don't want it to take an entire weekend just to learn the rules?
Well, then we pivot to a mechanic called engine building. And to find the perfect example of this in 2026, we leaned on our source from the Tabletop family blog.
Right, Adam.
Yeah, Adam, the guy who is so deeply entrenched in this hobby that for his 38th birthday, he built a tower of 38 games.
Which is wild. He plays more games in a year than most people do in a lifetime.
Exactly.
And those are the people you want to listen to, honestly. The ones who test everything so you don't have to.
Right. And out of everything he plays, Adam's #1 all-time favorite game-like, the one he hands to guests and says, "Just trust me," is a game called It's a Wonderful World.
It's a Wonderful World.
Okay.
And our sources note that it mixes engine building with something called strategic card drafting.
Oh, yes.
So let's just pause here and actually translate those mechanics for the listener. What is drafting in a board game?
Drafting is essentially picking teams on a playground, but with cards.
Yeah.
You are dealt a hand of cards, you pick one to keep for yourself, and then you pass the remaining hand to the player next to you.
Got it.
Then you receive a new hand from the person on your other side, and you just do it again.
That immediately creates this incredible FOMO.
Oh, huge fear of missing out.
Because you see all these great cards,
Mm-hmm.
but you can only take one. And you know you're handing a great card to your opponent.
Exactly. It forces you to constantly evaluate not just what you need, but what the person next to you might need. And then, once you draft those cards, It's a Wonderful World introduces its core tension, the engine building.
Which is what, exactly?
Engine building is basically the board game equivalent of compound interest. You start with very little, but you invest your meager starting resources to build a card that generates, say, 1 piece of plastic every turn.
Right.
Then you use that plastic to build a card that generates 2 pieces of metal. By the end of the game, your quote-unquote engine is churning out massive amounts of resources automatically.
So the source describes the payoff as this satisfying cascade of resources at the end of each round.
Yes.
And that phrase immediately makes me think of, like, setting up a massive, intricate line of dominoes.
That's a great way to look at it.
Right, because you spend the first 30 minutes of the game doing the tedious setup, carefully placing each piece, and the entire joy of the activity is just watching them fall perfectly into place, triggering one after another in this massive chain reaction.
Your domino analogy is perfectly capturing the psychology of an engine builder. I mean, human brains are hardwired to love exponential growth. Going from a snowball to an avalanche just feels incredible.
It really does.
But what keeps fishing, It's a Wonderful World at the #1 spot for someone who plays 38 games a year, is a very specific, agonizing micro-decision it forces on you every single turn.
Agonizing.
It's the draft versus recycle dilemma.
Right, the sources highlight this as the core tension. You draft a card, and you have to decide, do I keep this to build it, or do I shred it right now?
Exactly, because every card in your hand represents potential. Say I hold a very powerful card. Do I keep it knowing it will sit in my construction area, taking up space for 3 rounds before I can actually afford to build it?
Yeah.
Or do I recycle it, basically shredding it for spare parts, just to get the one tiny resource I need to finish a different project right now?
Oh, that is a tough choice.
It is. This constant weighing of long-term investment versus immediate gratification forces you into this flow state. It keeps the game fresh, whether you're playing with a massive group or, utilizing its highly rated solo mode.
Well, if you're listening to this and thinking, okay, building a resource engine sounds amazing, but I can't put my 12-year-old in a flow state about compound interest.
Yeah, that's fair.
We hear you.
Yeah.
And this brings us to a massive challenge. You want to play something substantial for family game night. You want genuine strategy, but you don't want to isolate younger or less experienced players at the table.
Right. Finding that middle ground is notoriously one of the hardest design challenges in the industry. I
Yeah.
mean, how do you engage an adult who wants tactical depth without overwhelming a middle schooler?
According to our elite community rankings, the game that has conquered this in 2026 is called Smoothie Wars.
Smoothie Wars.
It was crowned the best new all-rounder, filling a huge market gap by offering genuine strategy at a family-accessible complexity level. But I have to say, in looking at the source details here, and I have to stop. Uh-oh.
It says it's highly rated for its educational value, specifically teaching business concepts like market dynamics and cash flow to players ages 12 and up.
You're anticipating a disaster.
I am. I mean, teaching cash flow to a 12-year-old sounds like the quickest possible way to make a kid flip the table and leave the room.
You're not wrong to be skeptical.
How on earth does a game about market dynamics actually work as a fun family activity?
It works because modern game design understands the concept of the Trojan horse.
Okay, explain that.
How do you teach complex math without making it feel like a spreadsheet? You completely mask the educational mechanics behind a vibrant, chaotic, highly approachable theme.
Unless you hide the vegetables in the fruit smoothie.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Pun entirely intended.
I couldn't resist.
The players don't realize they are doing accounting. You aren't sitting there calculating profit margins on a whiteboard. You are frantically trying to figure out if you should buy a crate of strawberries or upgrade your blender before your little sister steals all the customers on your side of town.
Okay. That actually sounds pretty fun.
It is. By hiding the math inside a colorful, cutthroat smoothie business, it bridges the gap. It takes the pure, chaotic luck of childhood games and marries it to the heavy mechanics of something like brass.
So theme is really the ultimate translator for complex mechanics.
It really is. And we see this successful translation in other top family games, too. Our sources briefly highlight a modern classic called Quest for El Dorado, which is another brilliant example of masking deep mechanics.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that one.
It uses a mechanic called deck building, where you start with bad cards and slowly buy better ones to add to your personal deck. Now, that can be a very abstract, math-heavy concept,
Yeah.
but El Dorado slaps a jungle racing theme on top of it.
So you're physically moving a little explorer across a hex board based on the cards you play.
Exactly. Suddenly, the math makes perfect sense to a 10-year-old. You're constantly deciding whether to go slow and build a better deck of cards or just blaze ahead in a race through the jungle and hope you don't stall out in the swamp.
That's brilliant. The racing theme makes high strategy intuitive for everyone at the table.
That makes perfect sense. But let's shift gears and talk about player count.
Okay.
Because we've talked about huge heavyweights, we've talked about family game night, but often there are only 2 people sitting at the table.
Right.
Maybe it's you and a partner after the kids go to bed, or just 2 roommates. According to the data, 2026 is seeing an absolute explosion of highly tuned 2-player experiences.
The intimate duel.
The intimate duel, yes.
It's a very specific category that requires a unique kind of psychological design.
Let's look back at Adam from the Tabletop Family blog. Out of all the games he played last year, the one that hit the table the absolute most was a 2-player game called Toy Battle.
Toy Battle.
The source describes it as a 2-player war game where you send toy troops to battle on dynamic maps. It packs serious tension and tactical decisions into very quick rounds, but it's kept light by an adorable theme. And he plays it mostly against his kids.
You know, there is a massive cognitive dissonance in that description. A war game that is cute and approachable.
Yeah. Is mashing up aggressive head-to-head combat mechanics with adorable toy themes the secret sauce to getting people to play war games?
I think so. To understand why this works, we really have to look at the psychology of head-to-head play. 2-player games require a very delicate emotional balance.
What do you mean?
Well, When you sit down at a table with 4 players, the aggression naturally gets distributed. If I attack you, someone else might attack me because I've left myself vulnerable. The table balances itself socially.
Right, there's a natural ecosystem.
Exactly. But in a 2-player game, it is a pure zero-sum duel. Every single move I make directly and purposefully hurts you.
Which can lead to some very real, very quiet, very tense car rides home. I mean, if you've ever played a cutthroat 2-player game with a spouse, you know exactly what kind of tension we're talking about.
Oh, absolutely. The tension can become suffocating. So the cute theme in Toy Battle acts as a vital pressure release valve.
I see.
It is significantly harder to be genuinely angry at your opponent for ruthlessly outflanking you when the troops doing the outflanking are, adorable little plastic toys. It softens the emotional blow of the aggression.
It lets you be ruthless without feeling like a villain.
Exactly. And we see another way to release that 2-player pressure in the other massive hit of the decade, Sky Team.
Oh, right, Sky Team.
It actually won the Spiel des Jahres in 2024, which is essentially the Academy Awards of board games, and our data shows it remains a top choice in 2026.
Wow.
But instead of an adorable competitive theme to lower the temperature, it uses cooperation.
So you're working together instead of fighting.
Right. It forces 2 players to work in tandem to land a commercial airliner, often without being allowed to speak to each other during the round.
Oh, that sounds stressful.
The tension is still incredibly high. The simulation is deep and punishing, but you are directing that stress at the cardboard, not at each other.
Yeah.
Both Toy Battle and Sky Team solve the 2-player problem by allowing you to engage in deep, tactical simulation without ruining your real-life relationships.
That is such a smart way to design a game. So we spent a lot of time looking at what the hobbyists and the critics are raving about, the cardboard purists.
Yes.
But I want to pivot to our algorithmic source, bestproductsreviews.com. What is the data telling us mainstream America is actually putting in their shopping carts?
This is where things get really interesting.
Because when we look at the #1 spot on that list, we are transitioning away from cardboard pieces entirely. We are looking at a wild new tech invasion in the living room.
Yeah, the landscape of 2026 really shows its unique character at the intersection of tabletop and technology.
So the #1 spot on the algorithmic retail list goes to something called Nex Playground.
Nex Playground.
The source describes it as an active play system that uses an AI wide-angle camera to track body movements.
Wow.
There are no controllers. There are no wearables. It essentially turns your living room into an arcade. Families are standing in front of their TVs, playing Fruit Ninja, Whack-A-Mole, and there's a play pass that unlocks properties like Barbie and Peppa Pig.
That's quite a leap from punching out cardboard tokens.
It is. And it's not just new tech either. Even the oldest classics are digitizing. Jenga now has a digital die app.
Jenga?
Yes. You roll the digital die on your phone, and it creates challenges like Team Up, where you act as the eyes for a blindfolded teammate who has to physically pull the wooden block.
The integration of screens and AI is happening at every level of the market, from massive systems to simple party games.
I mean, I have to call out the elephant in the room here. Nex Playground connects to a TV and uses an AI camera to track your body. Jenga is using a digital web app on a smartphone.
Right.
I am looking at this list and thinking, are these even board games anymore, or have we just accidentally deep dived into video games?
That is the million-dollar question. And it requires us to look philosophically at how the definition of tabletop gaming is evolving. What makes a board game a board game? Is it the cardboard? Is it the wooden meeples?
I mean, part of me wants to say yes. It's the physical, tactile nature of it. It's the punching of the tokens we talked about at the very beginning.
Sure, I get that. But sociologically, the essence of a board game isn't the material it's printed on. It is the interactive, shared physical space.
Okay, unpack that for me.
Think about a traditional video game console. Usually, everyone is staring straight ahead at a screen, often with headsets on, isolated in their own individual experience, even if they happen to be sitting on the exact same couch.
Yeah, that's true.
Tabletop gaming is about looking at each other. It's about shared space, eye contact, and reading the room.
The table talks, the negotiations,
Yeah.
the groans when someone takes the card you wanted.
Exactly. The AI cameras in Nex Playground or the digital dice in Jenga aren't there to pull you away from your friends and into a screen. They are simply new mechanics replacing plastic spinners or a deck of cards, specifically designed to facilitate real-world, face-to-face connection.
Oh, I see.
When someone is pulling a physical Jenga block blindfolded while you frantically shout instructions at them, that is a deeply physical, shared social experience. The technology is just acting as the referee.
That reframes it completely. The tech is serving the social interaction, not replacing it. It's using AI to get people off the couch and waving their arms at each other.
Precisely.
That's actually pretty cool. So let's recap this journey we've been on today, curating the top 5 distinct flavors of 2026.
It's been an incredibly wide spectrum of experiences, that's for sure.
We started at the absolute peak of heavy cardboard dominance with brass, Pittsburgh, for those seeking that intense, multi-hour cognitive workout.
A true municipal government simulator.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then we stepped into the engine-building perfection of It's a Wonderful World, where the joy is found in the satisfying, dopamine-triggering cascade of exponential growth.
And we looked at how modern design uses a colorful theme as a Trojan horse for education, with the stealthy, brilliant Smoothie Wars.
Hiding those vegetables.
Yeah.
We also explored the delicate psychology of the intimate duel with the adorable but tense toy battle, proving that cute things make cutthroat tactics socially acceptable.
Along with Sky Team, redirecting that tension into cooperation.
Right. And finally, we embraced the AI-driven future of shared physical space with Nex Playground.
The market has truly evolved to cater to every conceivable need and player count.
It really has. Whether you are staring at your shelf looking for an intense solo mental workout to escape your screens, or you want a chaotic, AI-tracked family living room activity, 2026 has a highly tailored tabletop experience just waiting for you.
There has never been a better time to be a player.
I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We started this deep dive talking about the sensory joy of punching out cardboard tokens.
The pop.
The pop, the smell of the paper, the tactile perfection of the pieces. But as we look at games increasingly using digital apps to assign rules and AI cameras to track physical movements without any pieces at all,
Yeah.
what will a retro board game look like in 20 years?
Oh, wow.
Right? Will future generations open up a box, find a simple, unplugged deck of paper cards, and view it not as something old-fashioned, but as a revolutionary technological marvel?
Like a completely wireless, unhackable, infinitely replayable system that runs purely on imagination and conversation.
Sometimes the most advanced technology is the kind you can hold in your hands and just, well, pop out of the cardboard.